In Africa's agricultural sector and food systems must rapidly and sustainably transform to deliver incomes, food security, nutrition, and wider economic opportunities if the continent is to achieve middle income status by 2050. Now, ahead of the Africa Green Revolution Forum, we are joined by Dr. Kanayo F. Nwanze, former president of the International Fund for Agricultural Development, who is live in studio right now with us. Doctor, thank you very much for creating time.
Thank you very much.
I do believe that you did hear everything I said at the top of this conversation. What needs to be put in place for us, for agriculture? You know that it's the backbone of most of the economies here in the continent. Now, if we even pretty much look at Rwanda, it employs up to a good 70% of the population. What needs to be done to achieve this middle income status by 2050? What needs to be hastened?
Well, in short, what needs to be hastened is to make agriculture the basis for Africa's transformation. It's as simple as that. You gave the statistics. If 70% of our population are basically in the business of farming, of producing food, and yet the continent imports close to $40 billion annually of food, that tells you something is not right. We need to put the right policies in place, not just on paper, that foster an agricultural environment, that fosters agriculture as a business. We need to invest into agriculture. What this basically means, the bottom line for me, you have to have the right leadership.
All right.
Leadership is key for Africa's transformation. But coupled with leadership is followership.
All right.
I mean, it's a dynamics. You know, the transformation that we see taking place in Rwanda is basically a simple ABC lesson of how leadership is key, where you have a leader that has a vision, committed visionary leadership, and committed to the well-being of his people, and you have the right followership where people resonate with what he's planning to, he's doing for the country. For me, the bottom line is leadership, the right investment, and discipline.
All right. Doctor, allow me to cut in right there. You're talking about investment, and it brings me back to a question I've always wanted to ask. And this has everything to do with investment in agriculture. We're still looking at banks being reluctant to give out credit to agriculture, and much of these banks tell you straight up, we don't have data to base our decisions on. And now, the other day I was following a conversation with Dr. Akinwumi Adesina, the president of Africa Development Bank, and they are committing a lot of money going into agriculture, but still haven't seen result on the same. Would you tell me what's happening on financing this?
Unfortunately, what you're saying is really very true, because our national systems have been very weak over the years.
All right.
In essence, we disinvested in agriculture. Dr. Adesina will tell you that his country, my country, in the 70s was a major agricultural producing country. Right. Agriculture was 70%, made up 70% of our GDP. It dropped to below 20% when we discovered oil. All right. Today we recognize oil does not feed people. All right. It feeds a few pockets and leaves the majority poor. When we neglect agriculture, the consequences are basically what we experience today. We had strong universities of agriculture across the continent. Government gave priority to agriculture. Farmers were able to access loan in commodities like cocoa, coffee, tea, and so on, rubber. But then what happened? And coupled with this, we must realize that food and farms grow in rural areas. Those rural areas must be transformed into economically viable communities so people can live there, so young people can see agriculture as a business that generates money.
All right.
When we don't do this, the youth migrate to urban areas, and you know the consequence, they want to go to Europe.
Doctor, I don't want the youth from Africa to migrate.
No, but I am not. Let me be very honest with you. The point here is that when you say you have no data, data exists from the past. Today we may not have data. And one thing we have to recognize, institutions like AGRA that are beginning to show to governments the power of agricultural transformation are collecting data showing the impact of every dollar of investment into the agricultural sector, are going to be in the forefront of leading this African agricultural transformation.
You mentioned something about the youth in Africa migrating to urban areas, which shouldn't necessarily be a bad thing, but if agriculture, most of it is happening in the rural areas, then we're leaving a very big gap that we don't necessarily know who's going to fill it up. Now, let's jump to statistics a little bit there. In the next 20, 30 years, Africa is expected to grow more Africans to up to 1.3 billion people. How are we tapping into this population to ensure that, yes, we have a good number of people on the continent, but they are productive? Not just having people who are going to put population pressure, but more on the agriculture.
Yeah, we're going to have a large population of young, qualified, trained Africans.
All right.
Well, they're not trained for the right jobs. They're educated, but they're not trained for the right jobs.
All right.
You see, let's come back again to the role of youth in agriculture.
Okay.
When you look at the whole value chain, from production on farm to when you have your finished products, enhanced, fortified, or whatever, packaged.
All right.
At every point in the value chain, there is a business opportunity. So you don't even have to live in a rural area to be able to make money. But you can look at transforming those produce into various products,
all right,
which with increasing population and an increasing middle class, diets and food habits are changing. People want better and quality food. They will be looking for high-value products. Why don't we go into those? But it calls for investment.
All right.
So you see, agriculture will provide jobs for these emerging youth.
All right.
You gave a very interesting statistics. We have over 20 million young Africans below 35 vying for jobs. You know how many jobs are going to be available for them? At the best?
You would as well just let me know.
At the best, 200,000 jobs.
All right.
So what's going to happen to the rest of them? But the agricultural sector along the value chain offers enormous and huge opportunities for people to go into business. And the business community drives transformation.
Doctor, allow me to jump in right there and ask you a question. We know that the youth growing up, we have so many people to inspire us. When you look at, say, the likes of the Mark Zuckerbergs of this world, or the Bill Gates of this world, or maybe the owner of Amazon, these are all tech-best people. So you're definitely seeing Africa as well pushing more for tech development. Agriculture is quite a conversation that is still on paper. So much happening, but so less to show. So tell me.
Well, can you tell me what are people going to eat? No, fine. But see, in fact, technology has a key role to play.
And how do we use it in agriculture now?
But you're doing that in this country. Look at precision agriculture.
All right.
That is technology. With your computer in your room, you can program. You can actually organize farmers. You can actually organize trade of commodities and produce. You know, technology is a tool, and it can be used. And when you talk about the Mark Zuckerbergs, do you know about Strive Masiyiwa?
I know Strive. I've interviewed him a couple times.
Very good. He became an icon, a model, when he was much younger.
All right.
Do you know Mo Ibrahim?
Definitely, sir.
Do you know Dangote?
Yeah.
But these were young men at some time.
All right.
So we do have them in our country, in our continent. We do have them. The point is that we have political systems that have been rather very, very destructive.
Okay.
You see, we have not created opportunities that will inspire our younger population to go into businesses where they can make money and employ others. This is the biggest problem. So again, I come back to the big issue of the right leadership, visionary leadership. And putting in place infrastructure in rural areas, in urban areas, that meet the basic needs of our populations, that will inspire them to invest their time and their resources in the transformation we're talking about.
Dr. Nwanze, I have about 1 minute to wrap this whole interview, so I'm going to push for 5th and 8th of September. What are a few of the things to watch?
The few of the things to watch is This particular event that is at the HROF 2018 is going to focus on the theme, lead, measure, and grow.
All right.
We must lead, we must measure progress,
okay,
and we must grow.